Hello and welcome back to another Sunday recap of what I did in my third grade classroom. If you're new here, my name is Fletcher Nelson. I'm a third grade teacher in Minnesota. This is my 10th year of teaching. It is also my first year coaching C Squad volleyball, so instead of giving you updates throughout the week, I've just been doing a Sunday recap because I'm busy heading off to practice and games pretty much every day after school. So here we go. Here is a little recap of what we did for week 5, I believe. Week 5 of third grade. All right, we're going to start with reading. All right, so for our read alouds, we did an author study on Patricia Polacco. So we talked a lot about what we always notice in her books and what happens quite often. So we read The Bee Tree. We did not get to The Keeping Quilt. Forgot to get that one because there was 5 books we were supposed to read. We read The Meteor, and then one of my coworkers has the other 2 books. We also read Some Birthday and Thunder Cake. We were also talking about character traits this week, so we did this for each book. We filled out this story map. So we talked about the title, author, genre, setting, the point of view it's written in. We listed some of the characters. We identified a couple of character traits for a character and gave some text evidence to support that character trait. And then we wrote down what the theme of the book could be. So we did this for each read aloud throughout the week, and I eventually had them do this independently as well. And for our reading lessons, like I said, we were focusing on character traits. So talked about what it means, reviewed what it means to infer, because you a lot of times have to make inferences based on what the characters are doing to come up with character traits. So we talked about what character analysis is. Talked about, they described me, like what are my physical traits, and then what are personality traits we can infer. We talked about some common positive character traits, some common negative traits, and they practiced with a few little passages, and then they did that. They ended up doing that independently as well. So I cut these down the middle, and then they read this and came up with 2 traits to give to Lucy in this story. And like I said, throughout the week, we kept analyzing characters in the read alouds we were reading, and I eventually had them read I assigned it to them, and it was a read to me or I can't remember if it was a read to me or if it was an audiobook on Epic, but it was A Bad Case of the Stripes. So they had to listen to that and then fill this out and come up with character traits based off of the main character in that book, which they did independently. For writing, we are still doing expository writing. I keep saying I'm going to get these on TPT, but I've been super busy, so I have not. But I will eventually. So we just talked about researching in the lesson and where we can get information from. I can show you that lesson. All right, so we reviewed in that lesson just about what expository writing is and what makes a good topic. We talked about credibility. And then from there, we watched this video from Teaching Without Thrills, her YouTube channel, about how to evaluate sources. We did not watch the whole thing, but we got the idea. And then I talked about ways they can do research through nonfiction books, internet, journals, and magazines. And then we talked about citing your sources. In third grade, I'm not teaching them how to actually cite them. I'm just having them create a list of where they get their information from and organizing it. And then they were going to practice. So they all did this on the same topic. I wanted them to use the internet to practice researching polar bears. So they had to answer these questions and write down their source from where they were able to find this information using the internet and reliable sources to find that information. From there, my plan was to have them choose a topic to research then and start going. And I did have them start, but then I realized I need to be more specific with them on their first one. So I think I'm going to change it, choose one of these animals. I'll have a list of sources where they can find the information from, and they'll practice just using that instead of being completely on their own, choosing a topic and having to find all their own sources. So I'm going to revise that a little bit because some of them were either choosing topics that weren't specific enough, or some of the research in the some of their sources they were finding was too much. So we are gonna make that adjustment this week. All right, moving into math. We played trash ball on Monday for our Unit 1 test. Tuesday, we took our Unit 1 test. One thing that I did that worked really well is because the Bridges, our new math curriculum, their assessments are very wordy and a lot of word problems. So what I did is I recorded myself reading each problem on Seesaw. That way students could listen and follow along, and I didn't have to keep repeating or rereading questions. We didn't have to all do it together, and some students had to wait if they didn't want the test read to them. So it worked well. They could go at their own pace and click it multiple times to have it reread to them. So that worked really well for that first assessment. And then we started Unit 2, which I'm so far feeling better about. It's like introduction to multiplication. So the first couple lessons I thought were really good, and I didn't feel as confused about them, but we'll see how the rest of the unit goes. For example, for the first lesson, I displayed this picture of the pet store, and we talked about how there are more efficient ways to count these items than counting them one by one. So then we made an anchor chart for different multiplication strategies, and then they practiced identifying the amount of some of these objects and using those multiplication strategies with a partner. So we did that Wednesday. Thursday, the lesson was to do the pre-assessment for the unit, which kind of is funny to me that that's not the first thing you do, but whatever. So we did the pre-assessment on Thursday, and then Friday, that was like day three of indoor recess. We ended up getting outside, but Wednesday and Thursday we'd been inside. It's been a long week, so we did a little bit of review and did more like IXL and stuff. So instead of doing our other lesson. So that was our math for the week. And that brings us to science. We'll start with science for the first chunk of the year, and we'll move into social studies. But I've been wrapping up the scientific method. We did a lab with paper airplanes, so they filled this out in their science notebook. I'll show you what they filled out. But the first day I had them make paper airplanes, or observe and make a hypothesis based off of a different few types of paper for paper airplanes to make them out of and to think which one would fly the farthest. And then the next day we made them, so they were prepared, and then the next day we actually did the little lab. So here we go. All right, the slides for this and this interactive notebook are actually on TPT already, just scientific method interactive notebook. So they made observations about just the white paper, construction paper, and then these little washers that we were going to use as weights. So most people said like the construction paper was rougher and a little bit thicker, or maybe a little bit heavier. And then they made their hypothesis of which type they thought was going to fly the farthest. Would it be the white paper, construction paper, or would it be the white paper with a weight added to it, or construction paper with a weight? And then the next day I put a tape measure down, and we flew them, and they were measuring just the nearest foot of how far each of their airplanes went. We haven't found the average yet because we did this on Friday, and I think we still need to finish up a little bit with the construction paper and the weights. So we'll probably finish that up this week, find the averages, talk about variables, and come up with a conclusion. I have one more scientific method lab that I want to do with them before we move into our first unit about space and the moon phases, so we'll do that this week. That one's kind of ongoing with beans and seeds, so I'll show you it next week. But hoping to get that going and then to start space this week as well for science. Otherwise, this is our number corner calendar so far for the month. This also comes with our curriculum. I'm not gonna lie, we did day one. We were super confused, or the first 2 days we did Sunday and Monday, and we were confused on why it was a triangle then a quadrilateral. And like last month, the image always related to the day of the month. This month does not, so I didn't realize that it wouldn't always relate to the day of the month. So we flipped over the whole week on day one just to identify a couple patterns, and we did not do anything else. So I know that there's collection and like I think liquids we're supposed to be measuring and stuff each day, but we did not do that last week because again, just trying to do what I can with this new curriculum this year. We also did this watercolor project, pumpkin project. You can find the directions for this on Mist West Best's Instagram profile. She has a story highlight saved, but these turned out super well as well. So these are hanging up in the hallway on one side with our leaves from a couple weeks ago on the other side. And I got my fish tank set up. The conditioner is in there, and I needed to get new filters for the filter, but it's up and running, and we will have fish. The 2 fish that I'm being donated to me should be here on Wednesday. I'm not gonna lie, this was by far the hardest week of the year, just with the indoor recess, the rain, I don't know, a lot of like little behaviors came out, redirecting, reviewing routines and expectations. But a TikTok popped up on this day, and I had made a TikTok about going over expectations with my class last year. So it must just be this time of the year where they're starting to get comfortable and just having to make sure I reteach and redirect so they aren't thinking they can get away with stuff. So it was a long week, and it ended better. Wednesday and Thursday were rough. Friday was much better. So I'm hoping we can hit the ground running and it can be a good start to the week tomorrow on Monday. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I will see you next week for week 6. Goodbye.